Hi everyone, Professor Ming Lu back again with another video. And today's topic is going to be on investment banking, because I have a few students each year who want to go into that field. So as a result, I invited Kyle Kearney today from Intrepid Investment Bankers to share more information about investment banking, which is a very sought after career field. So before we get into the questions, I wanted to share some background information about Kyle. So he's currently an associate at Intrepid Investment Bankers in Los Angeles, where he works closely with entrepreneurial businesses on M&A and capital market transactions across a variety of industries. Kyle has advised on several notable Southern California transactions, including the sale of Ambry Genetics to Konica Minolta for $1 billion and the sale of RSI Home Products to American Woodwork Corporation for $1.1 billion. Those are huge transactions. Kyle earned a BA in English from UCLA after transferring from Mount San Antonio College. And another interesting fact, while in college, Congresswoman Grace Napolitano and Judy Chu awarded him the United States Congress highest award for an American youth, a Congressional Award Gold Medal. So, wow, I mean, Kyle, you've achieved a lot of great stuff. So thanks for coming today to give my students tips about investment banking. All right, so let's get started with the questions. So, Kyle, your background is a bit unorthodox. Yeah, Kyle, your background is a bit unorthodox for an investment banker, but maybe not as uncommon for a transfer student like my students at Santa Monica College. So can you tell us more about your path to breaking into investment banking?
Yeah, so I think you hit it right in that, it's probably more indicative of a transfer student's unorthodox background. So I actually graduated high school early, got my diploma after 2 years, and started at community college for, really to start my digital media and photography lifestyle business. So it gave me a lot more flexibility to kind of work on the entrepreneurial things that I was doing and keep moving forward in my academic career. It was at Mount SAC that I really started to develop an interest in finance and in business and look towards different fields like that. But it wasn't until UCLA that I really learned about investment banking and what it was and the different areas within it that I really honed in on what I wanted to do right out of undergrad.
Now you mentioned you started your own business while in school. So how did starting your own business play a role in your decision to ultimately become an investment banker?
Yeah, and most people probably don't bridge the gap from wedding photographer to investment banker too naturally, but it really did inspire a lot of why I entered into the field that I did. As a wedding photographer, you're getting to work with a couple on what they believe to be at that point in time the most important day of their life. And I always like to talk about, like, after the wedding, when you go into the garden with just the couple and it's the most intimate moments of the day, just the two of them and you. And I was the least qualified person to be in that moment. The mother of the bride, the best man, the crazy uncle that you only see once a year, all of them were more deserving of that moment than I was, but they trusted me to be there and capture it with them in that moment, and just working with somebody on the most important day of their life. Now, as an advisor to entrepreneurs on the sale of their business, these entrepreneurs have founded their businesses and this is their baby. And very similarly, it's the most important financial event of their life. And I could be 20, 30, 40 years their junior, but their expertise is really in their product or service or field, whereas they might be a little bit more green on deal making and leaning on me as an advisor when I shouldn't necessarily be the one in the room, so to speak.
Okay, let's now talk about internships. My students usually do maybe 1 or 2 internships at most, but you did 4 different internships in different roles at different banks. Is that a typical amount? And how helpful were those in determining your career goals and landing your dream job?
Yeah, I mean, they were tremendously helpful. I think the typical 4-year student at UCLA probably did a sophomore internship and then a junior internship and then moved to full-time. But as a transfer student and having this more unorthodox path, after my first internship and arriving at UCLA, I really quickly realized that there were so many different fields within finance and business that I just needed to explore more and get real, on the job experience to understand what was for me and what I liked. And I think it looks a little bit more linear in hindsight, but at the time it was very zigzag, calibrating after each experience to what part I liked and what part I didn't like, that ultimately led me to my job now. And, I took 2 quarters off at one point to move to Miami to work for an internship where I didn't know anybody, but all good experiences, and would definitely urge transfer students to seek as many internships as they can as they figure out what they want to do.
Now, most of my students know what investment banking is, and some of them, like I said earlier, want to pursue this career. However, there might be a few viewers who are watching this video and they just actually don't know what investment banking is at all, right? So would you mind just briefly explaining what is investment banking and what does a typical investment banker do?
Yeah, and we're even pretty specialized within investment banking. But within investment banking, you could have what we do, which is mergers and acquisitions and capital markets for privately held companies, usually entrepreneur-owned. You also have IPOs and follow-on offerings at an equity capital markets desk. You have the sales and trading guys on the stock trading floor. A lot of different realms within investment banking. But what we're specifically doing is selling privately held businesses for entrepreneurs or sponsors who, much like a realtor selling a house, hire us for our expertise in learning how to tell their story to investors to maximize, value or whatever they're looking for in a transaction.
Okay. The next thing I wanted to ask is, what is a typical day like for you, or is there even such a thing as a typical day at all?
Yeah, days are not typical, that's for sure. Every deal is different, and they all kind of evolve and manifest in their own ways, which is part of what makes the job really exciting. Is year after year, I continue to be learning new things as every deal shifts and evolves in its own way. I'd say net overall, as an analyst at least, you're going to be spending a good portion of your time in PowerPoint working on the deal book that's putting together the story of the business. You're going to be spending a good portion of time in Excel working on data analytics of our clients' metrics, working on building out the 3-statement forecast model, and other financial modeling exercises. And then the other kind of portion of that is probably spent in client meetings, working with the client and working with buyers, on the phone. My job has shifted a bit as an associate and become more client-centric and more client management and buyer management as I'm pitching investors and spending a lot more time on the phone.
Okay, I got to ask you this question. A lot of recent grads who go into investment banking, unfortunately, burn out after 2 or 3 years as an analyst, and they move on to other careers like private equity or corporate development. Some even just go back to school to get an MBA. Right, just as a way of I guess recovering. All right, so what's the secret to coping with burnout and having a long career in investment banking?
Yeah, and I'd say all those tracks are great too, if that's what you're interested in. I've had plenty of friends and peers from UCLA or Intrepid who went on to private equity and now are on the other side of a transaction we're working on, who went on to get MBAs or went to go do entrepreneurial things. Those are all great avenues for investment banking analysts. For me, it was really about, do you like what you're doing and do you like who you're doing it with? And if you answer yes to both of those, then really it's a place you should stay. And that's kind of what kept me around. To avoid burnout in kind of high intensity jobs, from my perspective, you just have to find something that you can put into your calendar daily or weekly or whatever it is that you protect. For a lot of people at my job, that's exercise, running every morning 30, 45 minutes just to recharge and detox. For me, it was church. Faith is really important to me. And Sunday mornings, bankers know they can't get a hold of me. And that's just kind of my protected time where I know that I can recharge and detox to continue working hard the following week.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up faith in your church as well. For me, I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic. It has a tremendous life in terms of when I was working in the corporate world, and even now today in education, right? Because there are times when things are tough, but I think our faith is what ultimately carries us above and beyond. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And something else I find interesting, and I wanted to ask you, you've actually had a chance to travel to a lot of countries, and as a matter of fact, I think you mentioned before that you traveled to over 50 countries. So how has that inspired your work at Intrepid, if at all?
Yeah, and I think travel has really been instilled in me from a very young age. From my mom, who's an avid traveler, and her father, who was an avid traveler as well. And for me, it's something I really enjoy to do and make time to do, to see the world. That's domestic and international. But really, I think travel is so important to have those experiences where you go in and really see and understand other cultures and people, and helps you develop just that empathy and cultural understanding that is so important, and it becoming so important in today's business world and just community.